Hi, I'm Quan. Welcome to part 4 of the Venus Retrograde Intro series. I'm having a really good time with this, and I hope you are too. Keep the comments coming. And we've already talked about how it affects in part 1 from July 25th to September 6th. Part 2, we talked about the importance of knowing one's rising sign. Part 3, I went over the rising sign in terms of the elements. And one of the ways to remember the elements is that if we're talking about mediation, mediating between our higher and lower selves, and realize that's not necessarily a problem in terms of higher being better. It's just a different perspective. But our higher selves, also known as our souls, comes in through our rising sign and actually through all of the parts of our charts. But the rising sign is where the higher self can come in unmediated by ego, which is represented by the sun sign, or the self-image based on the past, represented by the moon sign. So the rising sign is sort of our leprechaun pot of gold, our lucky charm, so to speak. Well, mediation, let's say there are 4 rules: to show up, pay attention, tell the truth, and then not be attached to outcome. Well, showing up is about the fire signs. You have to be there. You can't mediate with a party who isn't there. So if you're talking about your own spiritual evolution, then it's important that you recognize that you have to show up, that you have to say, I want to authentically present myself to the world. And that's what retrograde Venuses are about. They're about provoking our souls, our higher self, to say, hey, if I'm not feeling engaged in my physical body and my ideals are not meshing with my physical work or my energy as I move through the world, then the retrograde Venus every 1.6 years, 18, 19 months, comes in and says, hey, hit that reset button. It's not a Mercury retrograde, so it's not happening in here and through the 5th chakra, although it can happen through the mind, obviously. It's more kinesthetic. It's more the ability to feel within the body, the instincts. Are my ideals coming into manifestation? So the fire signs of Aries, Leo, and Sag have to show up. And since this Venus retrograde spends most of her time in Leo, the sign of the consistent ability to be who you are and to authentically present yourself to the world, drama and all, because sometimes we have to turn up the drama knobs, not only to get the attention, but to show the seriousness of our internal or our perfected spirit. So showing up is a first rule in mediation between the higher and lower selves. So after we show up, we have to pay attention. So that's where the earth signs come through. They deal with money and resources. So I like the double entendre of paying attention. So we tend to pay attention or give time to those things that we find valuable. So if we find our higher spiritual pursuits and even provocative pursuits, thanks, Nick Dagan Best, in terms of provocative art and provocative pursuits during a Venus retrograde, then the earth energy is there to make sure that we physically manifest what comes up after we show up. Third rule of mediation is tell the truth. Well, you don't want to mediate with somebody who's duplicitous or who is saying one thing here and then saying something else when they're in the mediated party. So that incongruence can cause your higher self to say, hey, I'm dropping the mic and I'm out of here, okay? So Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius is here to mediate in terms of higher and lower self. Let's get the facts right, first of all. And then at the last but not least are the water signs of Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. They're here to not be attached to outcome. Well, the water signs are where we are working on whether or not how to attach to and monitoring our attachments. Cancer and Pisces, the attachment is the family in Cancer. Pisces is the attachment between the higher and lower selves, and learning spirituality, how to bring that into the soul and bring that into your emotional body. Scorpio is the sign where we're here to lessen attachment while we reorganize the relationship between the higher and lower selves. And you can say, I don't have any Scorpio in my chart. Well, we all have Pluto somewhere. We all have Mars somewhere. So we have the agents of signs. We are all 12 signs. We just have varying degrees of. It reminds me of Professor Nussbaum in occupational therapy. Business occupational law that I had in undergrad. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, he said there are no experts, just varying degrees of ignorance. And you might think, yeah, no experts, just varying degrees of ignorance. So we have all 12 signs, but like a really good gumbo, only in certain amounts. Remember, be joyous and overlook the flaws if you can. This is Quan signing out.